All right, so torso, more or less, I mean, roughed in, right? Doesn't look great. That's okay. The geometry's there, and we're on our way. And now I'm going to pull out his pelvis, and then we're ready to do the proxy. So again, like I did on the top, I'm going to get rid of these edges. So I'm going to go to vertex, select the middle vert, convert the vertex to edges with Control F10, Control Delete to get rid of them, and then bring in the multi-cut tool. So Mesh Tools, Multi-Cut. And I'm going to cut it first into giant quarters. So click, click, enter, click, click, enter, and then I want to cut across. So 1, 2, enter, 1, 2, enter, and the same on the other side. Joining the front to the back, enter, and the front, or the back to the front, enter, and I'm good. Everything's quads. It's laid out a bit nicer, and I want to get rid of the multi-cut tool, so I'm just going to hit Q. And guess what? We're going to extrude out. So same as the top on the neck hole. I'm going to go to edge. I'm going to select that edge. I'm going to shift double click that edge. It selects the edges in between. Control F11 to convert to faces, and I'm ready to do face extrude. So let's do it. So edit mesh, extrude again, Control E, hotkey, and as per usual, I don't really need to use this universal manipulator. I'm going to go into the front view, and I'm just going to hit W, which is the move tool, and I'm just going to pull it down a little bit so I can see it. And his shirt has some thickness, and it sits on top of his pants. It's on top of. So I'm going to come down about yay far, and then I'm going to hit R for scale, and I'm going to scale that in a little bit. And that's going to give me the beginnings, at least, or an indication that there's a bit of thickness there. And if I could, I can pull that back up slightly. So it's still matching the. So if I go Control 0, or sorry, Alt 0 to X-ray everything, I can see that it's more or less following the contour of his shirt. So I'm within the range of the character design. All right. And then I've accidentally deselected those faces, so I'm just going to undo. They should be reselected. Yep. And then I'm going to do another extrude. So Control E or G will do the work. W for the move tool, and I'm going to pull it down. And we're going to want to start to round this, so that's R for scale, and I'm going to scale it in. And let's pull that up slightly. So about the same, these faces are about the same thickness. G will allow me to redo and extrude, or you can use the hotkey Control E. W for the move tool, pulling it down and scaling it in to start rounding, because he's got this round pelvis that he's got. And it might come a bit lower, because you see that's where they think the legs are coming out of. So let's go a bit lower on that one, and then I need to scale it in a bit more. And guess what? Another extrude. So it's either Control E is the hotkey to do another extrude. G will repeat the last action. W for my move tool, and I'm going to pull this down to about yay here. And R for scale, and I'm going to curl that in, because I'm more concerned with this pelvis arc that he's got going. And again, I am modeling to the character's left side, or our right side. So I'm going to ignore this side, and I'm going to be working on this one. So like scale, 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 scale. And now I've got this line kind of matching. And then the last step isn't actually an extrude. I'm just going to translate. So I'm going to find, in perspective, I'm going to find this midline. So edge. So I'm going to grab that edge and that edge. And W for the move, and I'm going to pull that down. And you can see how it brings the points together. And I'm actually going to maybe scale these a little bit closer together. So you can see I'm bringing these edges, they're kind of tapering in. And then the last little bit is just actually going to be the vert in the middle. So vertex, middle vert, get in here, W for the move tool, and pull that down. And now you can see I'm starting to arc that. So I'm going to go to the next vert over, and just to be symmetrical, I'm going to go shift click on the other side, and then in the front view I'll pull that down. And again, you can see how it's creating a contour, and probably want to scale that in towards each other to keep these lines kind of coming together. Pull that down, And then the next ones over are that one and that one. And I just want to see what they do when I pull them. So yeah, just a little bit maybe. And so now we've rounded off his pelvis. So that's from the front view. It looks okay, right? I mean, it's roughed in. And let's look at what that looks like in the side view. And it's okay. My mesh is a mess. So these edges, the way they jiggy jag all over the place, and that's going to require a lot of tweaking. And I don't know what that is. What is going on there? Let's look at that in perspective. Oh my goodness, what did I do? Something weird. Really weird. So I think I made a mistake with my multi-cut where I cut, but I didn't actually overlap the vert, so it created a new loop. But that's easy to fix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just select these edge rings here. And I'm holding down Shift and grabbing all of them, and I'm going to do a collapse. So that is Mesh Tools. No, Edit Mesh. Edge. Nope, right there. Fourth from the top, collapse. And if I undo that, all it does is it basically takes those edges and removes them and merges the verts on either side. So that's what it does. It just glues those together. So I'm sure you don't have that because you were more careful with your multi-cut than I was. Okay, so I fixed the problem, fine. Yeah, so it's all right. I'm gonna just check with X-ray. So I'm gonna go to object mode, and I'm gonna go to Control 0 and X-ray my geo, and I'm gonna backface cull this so that I don't see the opposite side. And now we can see he's maybe off a little bit, right? So we could adjust this, may as well. So I'm gonna go to vertex, and I'm gonna unbackface cull. Gotta do that in object mode, sorry. So backface cull so I can see both sides. Vertex, and this is the mistake I made last time. You can see they're not quite, like right to left isn't even. A bit odd. So I might just overlap these. I don't know why they're not the same on the bottom. Like I said, it's not critical because we are going to be deleting the other half soon. But I just want to pull these back to get this contour a bit closer to the drawing. That's a bit messy, and I'm not going to clean that up now. I'm going to clean it up later. But just to kind of get that front, I'm working mostly on the pelvis, kind of working. His ass is a bit fatter here, so bring that out a bit more. All right. Okay, so contour is a bit nicer. And then I actually want to, we're going to be pulling the legs out. So like we did with the arms, if you remember. So I'm going to go back to object mode. I'm going to un-X-ray. Remember the faces for the arms. The arms are round. Well, it's the same more or less with his legs. They're going to be round, maybe slightly oval for the pants. A bit wider than they are thick, but for the most part round. So we're going to pull the legs out of here, and I don't see anything that looks like a round leg. So I'm going to start to adjust that now. And I've got a little sort of minor trick that helps me. It's actually going to be these four faces here are going to make up the leg. So this is kind of like Homer taint, if you will, right? It's going to be the wedge of faces between his legs because we need his legs to actually be separated. So we're going to work with these four, and then I'm going to ignore the other side. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my, which camera don't I need? I guess we'll go to the top camera. And in the top camera, I'm actually going to go to View. And if I go down to predefined bookmarks, so we normally have a top and a right side and so front, top, and right side cameras perspective. But you can see we do have left, back, and bottom. So if I hit the bottom camera here, it actually shows me the bottom. And all it does is it takes the top camera and just rotates it 180 degrees and throws it below the plane. So now I have an orthographic view of the bottom of Homer, which is great. And now I can adjust these four faces so that they're round. So I'm going to do that right now. So I'm gonna grab this one and I'm gonna pull it down, and it's gonna be a bit weird. So we're gonna kind of live with it. And don't marquee, because if you marquee, you're gonna select probably verts in his collar and whatnot. So I'm tapping each of these points because I don't want to disturb any other verts in the model. And this will be a bit of tweaking. So I'm actually going to move these out and try and round. All of this is trying to get these to round. So pretty close. It's difficult. So I might find that I might need to adjust some of these points in the other part of the body as well, just to minimize the distortion on my mesh. And the same for the back. So let's move these over. Again, I'm not marqueeing, I am single clicking. Because if I do a marquee like that to grab a point, and then I look in perspective, I'm almost guaranteed to grab verts somewhere else in the body where I don't want them, right? So at least the point behind, right? If I do that, I'm grabbing points on the other side of the character. So that's why we want to just tap select or just click. And it's annoying, but it'll save you from ruining the model, which is more annoying. And let's pull this out a bit. And we're getting there. We're getting there. I might actually be able to move these a bit more forward. Just to try it. It's more of an oval now, but at least it's roundish. And in the image, I know his legs are pretty much touching. So we can get this probably quite close to the center line as long as there is still a gap here. That's what's important. And maybe just, oops, where did my mouse go? Center this. And if I look at that, it's definitely warping the rest of the geo, but that's where the tweaking is going to come in. And you notice that I'm clicking off to clear the move tool before I select something else. And that helps because otherwise the move tool is in the way a lot of times. Like if I try and get that vert below it, I can't because the move tool's in the way. So click off, removes the move tool, and then you can grab, or you can be hitting Q and W all the time. Okay, so I'm gonna live with that for now. So that's set up, I think, and ready to go. We've ignored the other half of the character. So this is about a 13-minute video up to now. So I will call it there, and the next step would be to do what's called the proxy. So we're going to remove the character's right side and mirror the geometry in a way that allows us to work one side, and Maya will update the other side for us. So let's just take a quick peek in perspective. Yeah, I mean, the pelvis is going to be a bit tweaked out, and his sort of butt area is a bit weird. And if I look in the side view, but don't worry, it'll come back to us, right? We're roughing it in. That's what's important here. So at this point, I'm going to go into object mode. I'm going to delete the history again. So edit, delete by type, history. And I'm going to save it out. So file, save scene as. And I'm going to call this number 4 _ pelvis. Save as, and see you in a bit.